was over there. Gems from Bhagavan. Now, I'm not so sure if he didn't write it, but someone who'd been with him a while did. I don't know if I've seen more of this stuff compiled by this guy. But this is something people have trouble with. So it's fate and free will. Yeah, so he's talking about it. Free will and destiny are ever existent. Destiny is the result of past actions. It concerns the body. Let the body act as may suit it. Why are you concerned about it? Why do you pay attention to it? Free will and destiny last as long as the body lasts. Yeah, so basically, that which you're not, the programming is that it has free will. That which you're not is under the influence of destiny. Basically, the action figure, in a sense, is an expression of impressions. So impressions that occurred some other time, some other spatial dimension to a thing, expresses as a thing. Yeah, so almost like the karmic chain. And so the action figure has programming. One of the programming is it has free will. As long as the action figure is on, it's going to feel like it has free will. Now, you can try to waste time trying to convince it. It doesn't have free will. But in a pinch, it's going to feel like it has free will. Yeah. So it can have maybe an understanding or an intellectual acknowledgement as long as the conditions prevail for that to be easily entertained. Once the rubber hits the road, it's going to feel like it's doing everything. So this is another point of trying to correct that which doesn't need correction. Yeah, I mean, this needed correction. It's gotten the correction it needs. It doesn't need fine-tuning correction because there's certain things that aren't going to be overridden. Yeah, because it's the programming, the thick, stubborn programming. So the idea of talking about what you're not to what you're not doesn't go anywhere, and to talk about you have no free will as that which is based on free will, what's the point of it? Yeah, you're going against a lot of current to get to where. It's sort of like, all right, if we could stop the wind from blowing, if we could stop the tide from coming in, the little sandcastle will stay in place. But unfortunately, it's a lot of managing, and the conditions are volatile. They're always going to change, and there goes your understanding. So the understanding to me is about what you're not. It's not what you're not having an understanding. Yeah? So it's the understanding is about what you're not trying to give what you're not an understanding. Yeah. So we're just talking about something out of this book.
Charlie's here too.
Fate and free will.
Charlie's here too, isn't he?
Oh, he is. All right. Well, see, he's under destiny. His destiny was to take a shit when he arrived at Lake of Well.
Are we recording this?
Now, free will had nothing to do with it. Yeah, because maybe he wanted to go, but if there wasn't any bathroom available, he wouldn't go. So the idea of free will would be stumped by destiny. The destiny was there was no bathroom to be found, so then the sphincter muscle has to be contracted until the free will can fulfill its mission, which is going.
We got free will to do that.
Yeah, you see, we have the free will to do that because basically, if you didn't, it would be the expense of your face, which you don't want to take a shit in your pants, usually. Yeah, so you're protecting something. So in that case, it looks like you can hold the pucker for a long time. So as long as there's an individualization, there's a sense of free will. Yeah? All right, so now I'm just reading this because we said it before, but if you can read it, if you can hear what he's saying. So this is a part from Ramana Maharshi about fate and free will. So free will and destiny are ever existent. Destiny is the result of past actions. It concerns the body. So let's say the body has tendencies, the brain body, let's say, has tendencies and expressions that don't seem to have been acquired here. Yeah, they were sort of, somehow there's been impressions that seek expression. That's like the constant slinky of this, of the dreaming, you know? So there's an impression, and then there's the desire or a drive to express. So let's say the mind taking itself to be a thing, a lot of things were impressed upon it, and then a thing appears again for an expression of it. Yeah? Yeah. So the free will and destiny are ever existent. Destiny is the result of past actions. It concerns the body. Yeah? So let the body act as may suit it. Yeah? So basically it is anyway. Yeah, so I might as well go along what's already the way it's going along. It's just, yeah. So why are you concerned about it? Yeah. Now, even when I was acting out, I wasn't really that concerned about it. The problem with me is a lot of others were concerned about it. So I needed to be corrected by society. Now, I didn't want to be corrected, but yeah, force prevailed, and I ended up being institutionalized, and then corrections were impressed upon me, let's say, as what I'm not, and then they saw an expression in the last 30-something years. So, yeah. So somehow, but something left an impression. It didn't even look like anything happened, and it didn't like it took any time, but it sought an expression for 31 years. So that to me is unbelievable. So I believe you can have time impressions, which will also allot out of as time. So if like you have a deep mental groove, that deep mental groove will seek and find expression maybe a lot of time in your life. Yeah, like alcoholism is a deep mental groove. So it's got a drive to express, yeah? So maybe its shelf life is 20 years of active whatever, and then recovery becomes available. Yeah, but then there can be an impression on what we are, or as what we are, on what we're not, that can happen in no time. And that impression can express for a long time, because it doesn't come from time. Yeah, it's a timeless whack that doesn't take any time, yet it can extend for quite a long time. Yeah, yeah. So being impressed by that is an incredible, that's like an aha that can change one's life. Yeah, just an aha, a quick whack, and then suddenly you see anew. Yeah, that's pretty awesome to me. So this idea of free will and destiny, who cares really? Yeah, so really, the idea of free will, obviously Ramana said in other places that if there's a sense of individualization, which is a thing is appearing, that thing has a sense of free will. Now, the free will is part of the destiny. The destiny of the action figure is that it believes it has free will. So, you're not going to change the destiny, therefore why waste time trying to change the free will? Especially if you don't have free will. Why would you want to change something that you don't have to begin with? You don't have free will, there is the feeling of free will. Yeah, but first of all, obviously there's no one who has it, and there is no real free will, let's say. So, but they can co-inhabit the same dream aspect. They're not in a conflict, yeah? So, let's just leave unto the body what's the body's, and then see that you're not that, and then by seeing what you're not, you won't spend so much of a spiritual budget on it, yeah? You'll let it get to a certain point where it's not aggravating everyone else and yourself. It's not calling undue attention to its behaviors. And, you know, it's been corrected enough to travel a day at a time, yeah, without getting jackpotted so much. So, all right, it's done, really. Now it's time to let it sort of graze. You know, you found the pasture. You let the cow in. The cow's just doing its thing day in and day out. And then mind can go to other possibilities. But if it tries to go to the possibility as a cow, the cow's definition or framing overrides it. So you have to see you're not. that if you attempt to see as this, you're going to see but a little. Yeah, because it's frame. It has a frame. It has a set programming. It can't. It's sort of like a battery that only like 16 gigabytes or something. It doesn't have a huge capacity. So and then if you're assuming it's all there is, when it ain't, you're gonna be trying to get it in line. You're all there is, and it just can't respond. All there is being, I'm gonna think about me all day. That's not being all you are. Yeah. So this gets corrected. You learn certain things. You find skillful means to do what? To keep the demand of attention and interest simmered. It's not fucking boiling over. It's not like you're in a dramatic event all day, every day. So in a way, there was a great wisdom in people that would move into like defined places like temples or anything, because they basically can do the same thing every day, but it'll look like it's new because their mind is awake, So they don't need to do tons of different shit. Everything they do is different every day because of mind that precedes it. Yeah, so they don't have to change the steps out here because it's given different meaning from here. So you could walk on the same trail your whole life and never get bored of it because you'll see something every time. Yeah, woodpeckers or things will happen. Yeah, so and then all right, and that's enough. So you hit a certain level of enough, you have enough money, let's say, for today, you've got gas, you got that, and then basically, the dogs are called off and they go smell and hunt around other things. Maybe they run up a tree of serenity, who knows? But they are freed from this preoccupation because you've seen it's not you. Yeah, it's just that simple. Even if it's a basic understanding, that will lend a lot of lightness to the constant spotlighting of you all day. Some of that light will be redirected. It will, and then you'll start seeing others. You'll start being, it won't be so determined following you and your escapades all day. You'll lose interest in it, and you'll gain interest in others and life and everything like that. With no effort, it's not like you're setting out to lose interest, because that would be interest. So you cannot, and you've got to make sure it's not the HMS Hedderman that's taken off. You've got to leave that at the dry dock. You know what I mean? And then you'll just travel free range, no basic sea routes. You'll just go free ranging. Yeah? Just don't start embarking on a journey with that. Just, journey from that, let's say. And it does a whole lot better. It does. This doesn't, how some things are, like if you put too much bass in like a cheap speaker, it blows the speaker. So, it's sort of like if you put too much attention in this, it can't handle the wattage. It can't be seen or thought about all day as the center of the universe. It's just way too much. And also it's like it has to lay down like 1/3 of the day. I mean, it can't even stay on. It's too much for it. So, obviously the filament is at the point of burning out almost every fucking day, so it gets a break. And then, you know what I mean? So you don't want to pump. You don't want so much wattage going through the system. It can't handle it, you know what I mean? And especially the brain, the poor brain, will fucking spawn neuroses and phobias, Remember that restless leg syndrome? I thought that was a joke. When I first heard it, they had a commercial with some lady, my legs just go, what a restless leg syndrome. They gave it a name, your leg moves. It's restless leg syndrome. I knew I had it. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like, it's just way too much naming of things, you know what I mean? Hey, my leg moved. You know what I mean? Jesus, it's just too much. As soon as you give it a name, yes, you see what happens. Yeah, so you got to be careful. And a lot of things, I would imagine, there's a lot of latent potentialities in all of us that probably to be diagnosing yourself or going in to get a diagnosis all day is probably way too much. You'll find shit that's not even there. And as soon as you find it, it's there. I mean, I'd rather let a lot of shit go. Yeah? So, all of it has to do with attention and interest. And the dilemma is that which we're not cannot lose interest in that which it's not. That would be interest in it. So you've got to know, it's not sort of like, all right, I realize this is a failed system, I'm going to walk away. But it's not as simple as that, because you're identified as the failed system. So it's going to be the failed system believing it's walking away from its objectification of the failed system. See, if you're not getting the livingness of the failed system, that's not the failed system. It's like it's like the skin snake that got molted. You think, oh, there's the snake, that's the failed snake. But no, yes, there's a new skin that's been developed, yes? And so the system will objectify itself and critique it and blame it and do this as a way of reinforcing its stability. So you have to notice what it does. It's mechanical. If you notice what it does, it's sort of like this, therefore that. So you won't be surprised at every that. Let's say you know somebody who's an asshole, and they keep expressing being an asshole. You shouldn't be surprised after a few years. You know what I mean? I can't believe what he did. What do you mean? He did the same fucking thing like 80 different ways. So, there shouldn't be any surprise factor. You should know, yeah, you've observed it. How long do you have to observe something to grok it, So you observe what you're not. And then sooner or later, if you hear the right message, or not the right message, any message, but if you hear it rightly, let's say, it doesn't matter what the message is, it's the hearing of it that makes it right. Yeah? So either you're ready to hear it or whatever. But if it's available, then you get it triggers something. When you, just like on Having Never Left, triggers a lot for me. And then 2 years ago, it was maybe, self can't get out of self, or maybe what's looking is what you're looking for. All of them have triggered a huge amount of, I don't know what, just some sense of like a dry avalanche, just something. And so I like that triggering. It's sort of like, I'm like the dude that wants to yodel in the mountains, and have the fucking avalanche start. I mean, why not? Why not? Yeah, there's an exhilaration with it. Yeah, because here it's like living in it's a claustrophobic system. For that huge camera that we are to look through the brownie, it can only take so much. Yeah, I mean, it can't explain away all the brownie pictures. It just, why not? Let's have another picture. You know what I mean? Fuck the brownie. Is there a possibility that I'm not the brownie? I tried trying to be a better brownie, or the transcendent brownie. It hasn't worked. So maybe I'm not the brownie. Maybe why I haven't been able to transcend is that there is no place to transcend. Who knows, Maybe there's something going on that I have no idea of. Now I have an idea of it, and it's telling me what's been going on. Yeah, the idea is like a new lens. The seeing is there, but now I see through this lens of non-duality, and a lot is revealed that wasn't being revealed before. Yeah? So the lens is sort of like, wow, it gives me a new insight into things. And then they land, and then they take root. They just don't land, they take root. And then that understanding gets fed, and then the understanding, in a way, does its job. It's like the booster of the rocket. The rocket gets enough oomph, the booster falls off. Now there's vision. Yeah, you don't need the understanding anymore. The understanding was helpful while you were still in like the taintedness of time and everything. Now you've seen the vision has occurred, the vision that's always available at all times, yes? Did you lose something? Oh, welcome.
Hi, I thought I was trying to get in through the front.
Ah, yes. We always make it hard on everybody. Yeah.
So I just went on Google and I was like, how do I get in?
Oh, yeah, well, you're in.
I found the stairs.
You're in. Yes, that's good.
It's meant to be.
All right, you're meant to be. All right, so I'm going to go start again. just make it, this is your, have you been, I can't see you up on the camera.
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years ago, so you're on the 2-year plan. Right? Every 2 years. It's sort of like an orbit, like an asteroid comes back. Hopefully it's lighter every orbit, hopefully. That's the point, yeah. So all right, so you listen to YouTube and everything? No? Oh, you just came here 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. All right, well, we're just riffing on this idea of free will and destiny, yeah, from a view of Master Ramana Maharshi. Because there's obviously a feeling, this has a feeling it has free will. Its whole story is based on it's the doer of stuff, yeah? And being the doer of stuff means, you know, there's a sense of I did something or I didn't do something. I was on the crossroads that always either goes to doing or not doing, yeah? So there's a sense of free will. And then there's this idea some people have a sense of destiny. So how can there be free will and destiny? Well, they're inclusive, really. There's a feeling of free will in destiny, let's say. So basically everything's happening, everything is dreaming, but in the dreaming there's a feeling of having that the dreaming is real, and in there's free will. Yeah? There's no confusion, really. As long as there's the action figure, there's going to be a feeling of free will. So the whole point about the message is really to point out what it's being directed at. The message isn't being directed at you, nor is it coming from me. Yeah? The message is being directed at what we are, not who we think we are. Yeah? So as Hawaiian Po, a great Zen master, said, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. So the message about that which is perceiving isn't directed at the perceived, yeah? Because the perceived isn't what's perceiving. You want the message to go to what's perceiving, and it isn't the perceived, yeah? I'm seeing you, you're off the game board. You're seeing me, I'm off the game board. So let's get clear, the message isn't to the perceived, it's to the perceiving. Yeah? So it's to the perceiving about what's perceived, not to the perceived about what's perceiving. Because that's very confusing to the perceived, because the perceived thinks it's what's perceiving. Yeah? So this is a dilemma, so you have to sort of throw it through the perceived to the perceiving. Yeah? And then the perceived is sort of like if you ever see that picture of the Buddha with 1,000 arms, and just picture the 1,000 arms with mitts, baseball mitts, 1,000 of them, and every message is getting claimed by one of these mitts, catching them. So the perceived goes, I'm the one who's perceiving. The dream, oh, I'm the one who's dreaming. That which is a thing, I'm no thing. Yeah. So the message gets sort of neutered by what's hearing the message. So the message is hopefully through the perceived to the perceiving. Now I know that the perceived is going to catch it and say, I'm the one who's perceiving. It's just the way it goes. That's its habit. So you don't want to spend much time on it. You just want to sort of put it in a certain way that you know gets through the defenses, because you've seen the schematics of the defenses. You know, for years I've sat here. I've seen like the blueprints of the Death Star. You know, I know this is the opening you can get through. So you overwhelm its little like battle stations, and one thing gets in through the engine room, and then the whole thing ups. All right. In this case, it doesn't have to. The Death Star can be Death Starring as much as it wants. You'll just realize you're not the Death Star. Yeah. And so maybe you'll lose interest in the Death Star. Yeah. Yeah, but not as the Death Star. See, that's the dilemma. So here you go. So I'm talking to what's perceiving. So what's perceiving? Hopefully, let's describe the perceived. Yeah? How does the perceived take itself to be what's perceiving? Well, the mental state. The mental state sort of claims that which is perceiving and attributes it to the perceived. Yeah? So now the perceived thinks it's perceiving, and that's the mistake right there. Yeah? If it isn't corrected, it's going to be a shadow or a huge influence every step of the way to the perceived, attempting to find out what's perceiving, because it is what's perceiving, but not as the perceived, yes? So this is more of a negation of the basic identification we seem to be in to the perceived. Yeah? It doesn't really do well. I've seen it. It's well-intentioned, but when you describe what you are to what you're not, it doesn't really, it's not a good methodology, because what you're not will give it all the meaning it has, which is it'll have a conceptual idea of its own nature as what it's not, which doesn't go anywhere, once again, yes? It may have an intellectual understanding, but it's not gaining any traction. It's not producing a stabilized traveling lighter. It's not shifting or just redistributing the interest. It may be refining it. It may culture it, yeah, like a yogurt. It may do a number of things, but it's not, there's not a freedom from the bondage of self. There's a freedom as the self, yeah, which is different. There are freedoms as the self. You can get lighter, or the great joy of not being as heavy as you once were. You can get a lot off of that. So if you've been really fucked and then you get unfucked, that's a real joy. But if you look at what's happened, nothing's really moved, you know, it's just, it seems like it usually, and it is as an experience, but in fact, you haven't moved from one coin, you just had both sides, you know, you're still in the, you know, the currency of the realm. So, all right, so the message now gets to what's perceiving. So what's perceiving perceives what it's not. Yeah? So beautiful, really. It perceives what it's not. And in the perceiving of what it's not, it's very clear it's not that. Because what can be perceived can't be perceiving. So it gets to itself by a little boomerang. It sees what it's not, and in seeing what it's not, it gets a sense of what it is. It can't get a sense of what it is because it always is. Yeah? So there's no point where it can remember itself. It's never been forgotten. It can't experience itself because it can never be anything other than it. Yeah? It can't know itself because it is it. All it can do is be itself, and it's doing it. It's not doing it, it's being it. But it can get a feeling of what it is by seeing what it's not. That's the beauty of this place. Because here, where we can feel like we've forgotten what we are, yeah, you can see that which believes has forgotten what you are isn't you. And so you see right through the whole story of forgetting and then the drive to try to remember again. It's all bogus. There's that which you are hasn't forgotten what it is. It's appearing, yeah, to seem to be so. In other words, the only way it could look this way is through time, but there is no reality in time. And if you don't believe that, dream at night. See it dreaming at night, and see it dreaming, let's say last night, I was dreaming of a 5-second situation. Yeah? A first shot of oat milk with a coffee. Yeah, the first taste, that was the dreaming. And then the night before, I had a 300-year epic dream where I was 8 incarnations, avatars, fucking czars, cobblers, you know. Yeah, it took me exact the same amount of time to wake up from both dreams. The 300-year-old dream, I woke up like that. The 5-second dream, I woke up like that. Yeah, so the 300-year dream didn't demand 3 months of waking up. Because time isn't a fact, yes? Time isn't an essential quality. Time is a manufacture, yeah? So this idea that I was the perceived for so fucking long doesn't hold any water in timelessness. No, it doesn't. What's perceiving has always been what we are, and what's perceived is not what's perceiving. Just fucking that simple. So why would I want to keep trying to arrive at that which is perceiving from what is not perceiving? How am I going to perceive the truth in that? Hopefully through non-duality. Hopefully I'll hear something and I'll realize, Jesus, this is not about an affirmation, it's a negation. Because if you're in the act of being identified as what you're not, how long would it take to get out of that? No time at all. Yeah, because you're not that. Just like the camera with the brownie camera, little $10 camera with the plastic lens, and the huge camera with HD and 360-degree super high definition, looks through the brownie camera, forgets that it's the big camera, and assumes in time, it appears to it that it's the brownie camera. Is it the brownie camera? No. But it seems it believes it is, so now it gives up all of its possibilities and lives in the possibility of being a brownie. So everything is seen through this plastic lens. You just fucking can't even, you just speculate, you have no view, and you just hope when you take a picture you catch something. And so what does it do? It tries to improve the brownie camera. So it buys $8,000 Nikon lenses, fucking sticks it on the plastic lens, but the plastic lens is going to override the effect of the following lens. The plastic lens is what's going to give meaning to the Nikon lens, not the opposite way. So basically it fails. The more and more and more that you want that brownie to become a Nikon, it's more of a fucking brownie. So what happens? You hear a message, not, oh, you can be a Nikon. You've got it in you. They're just untapped lenses in you at all times. Though you look like a brownie, you smell like a brownie, you can be a Nikon as the brownie. Yeah? You're through with that. That didn't work. So now you go, someone says, hey, maybe you're not the brownie, bro. What? Yeah, maybe what you're taking yourself to be is defining how you can see. Maybe you don't need to improve your seeing, just see what you're not. Hey, I'm not the brownie. What happens? You start feeling the qualities of what you are, which is that huge camera. It's not like you take a lesson to become the big camera. You have always been the big camera. You were just taking yourself to be a brownie. That taking yourself to be a brownie, no matter how real it seemed, could not produce a lasting effect. You did not become the brownie. You did not lose any of your qualities. They were just under-attended to. That's all, because you were busily believing the brownie was the only way to see anything, because I'm a fucking brownie. And I want to become a better brownie, or the highest brownie, or authentic brownie, or be a better brownie, whatever. It didn't matter. The brownie kept going in all of your pursuits, which was the shadow you would like to get out of from underneath it. But you can't, because you identified as it. See what you're not, and you'll find out what you are. And when you find out what you are, it will inform you you've always been this way. Nothing is new, nothing was acquired, nothing was lost, nothing was gained. What you are has always exactly been what you are. What you're not seems to be an emphasized little figment of an imagination for 80, 90 years. And just like you get relief when you wake up, you're going to wake up from this awake dream. Yeah? And it'll be like it never happened. So all of its declarations and oaths and fucking beliefs have no effect on what we are. The sky doesn't get blemished by whatever appears in it. So see what you're not. Yes. Stop wasting time trying to polish that which is perceived. Yes. It has its limitations. It's not what's perceiving. Beautiful. Yes. Yes. So get it clear. Don't make. And then you'll see how many moves you have to make from there. Really, you'll see. All right, is that a call to arms, or is it very disarming? In my view, it's very disarming. Because on having never left, you're fucking not going to buy trips to another shore. If the other shore is representing that which you've never left, why would you go, unless you want to go to another shore, which is fine. Yeah? So free will, destiny, they're all of the body and the brain. Yeah. Some of those things, and why would you waste time trying to change the source code of that which you're not? Yeah? If you think it needs corrections, either the authorities will find you to correct you, or, you can find skillful means everywhere. yeah, so that you stay out of the way of a lot of things, and then you're just going to live, and you'll be an expression of, other than the anxiety over time and outcomes and what's not happening and all these things that sort of take attention and interest away from what's happening. Yeah, you'll get a relief from. You'll actually, and it won't be based on disinterest, really. It's not like you gain interest, you lose interest. And that interest gets free to range and roam wherever it wants to go, and you and I will be the better for it. So will other people that know us. Yeah? Yeah, you'll be awake. You won't be back in the back 40 when a package comes to your life. You'll be right there. You'll never get gypped again. Yeah? This idea that you could be out of the moment will be totally dismissed completely. All these insane ideas that we somehow, either they were downloaded into us or we believed, have been proven to be totally false. Yeah? You don't need to go back every 3 months to verify the falseness. It was sort of like me with the gray long sleeve shirt and the red pants. As soon as my friend told me they were pink and magenta, I never saw them as gray and red again. I just saw them as pink and magenta because they'd always been pink and magenta. I just assumed they were gray and red. He corrected it, I didn't go back every 3 months. Is it gray and red? No, it was pink and magenta. It had never been gray or red. I just assumed it. I mistook it. I missaw it. And then I based a lot on that. And not many people will fucking say anything about it. So one person had mercy on me because I looked like an ass in a way, a 12-year-old ass. And they told me, and I was free from that fucking misconception. But the freedom wasn't based on something changing. It was seeing things as they are. That they had never been gray. The pants were never red and the shirt was never gray. I just thought they were. Exactly. This is sort of like the correction of non-duality. When it occurs, there was no need for a correction. Yeah. What gets corrected is just imaginary assumptions. Really. And the biggest assumption is the one that thinks is assuming. The one who thinks it has all the assumptions is the biggest assumption. That you're somehow a doer and a haver of things that you don't do and have. Yeah? Yeah. So whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. Do you need 800 pages of commentary about that? It's pretty clear. Yeah. So isn't there a feeling that the perceiving has been attributed to the perceived? Obviously. Yes? The perceived thinks it's perceiving. The perceived thinks it's conscious. When Huang Po, a great master, cleared it up, whatever can be perceived isn't conscious. Yeah, whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. It's that simple. So, all right, I feel like there's perceiving, but I feel like it's me perceiving. All right, well, let that be corrected. Yeah? Let the perceiving be first and the perceived second, instead of having the perceived as the perceiving. So the horse now is in front of the cart, the perceiving and then the perceived. That's very clear, instead of the perceived claiming to be that which is perceiving. Yes? So it's clear. And you'll feel it. You'll feel that. Yeah? You'll feel it all day, so it won't even be like a feeling. It will just be stabilized, and some of these insane assumptions and ideas will have been washed clear. Yeah, and you won't be wasting any time looking for what can't be found, and you won't have to chant, "I am what I'm looking for." I am. You're just clear, you know. This body can express clarity. It is not what's clear. But the brain and body can express clarity. Yeah? Yeah. But it is not that which is clear. It's just that simple. But it expresses a lot of shit. Yeah? Yeah. It expresses misdirection. It expresses misassumptions. It expresses a lot of stuff here. Tons of stuff. Now, what would happen if it expressed a clear balance of the horses in front of the cart, The background, which was seemingly forgotten by all the emphasis on the foreground, is now the foreground, and the foreground's the background. Yeah? That which comes and goes doesn't take precedent of that which is always here. Sort of lined up better. That which comes and goes, comes and goes. That which is always here, always here. That's it. Yeah. See how it feels, starting from that which is always here, right? Noticing what comes and goes, instead of that which comes and goes, never noticing what's always here. Yeah, yeah, simple, it's simple. Just switch, you're in the same chair, just like you're sitting there, and suddenly you're in the corner without getting up or anything. That's what it's like. You switch. So like the emphasis switches. Once suddenly the seeing is emphasized, not the seen. Not the idea of see or seen, but the seeing is emphasized. It doesn't take many times. A few times can correct it. Yeah? Because that's how powerful it is. You don't need repetition over and over again. A few samples will tell you about the whole pie. And then you just come here and you warn people about what may happen, how the system, how the perceived will keep stubbornly claiming to be what's perceiving. That's all. And then it will search for perceiving as to perceived, when it is what's perceiving. So you have to see the mistake. You see it. The mistake continues, but now you're not beholden to it. Yeah? You are beholden to it if you are the representation of the mistake, but you're not anymore. You are representing the seeing of the mistake. It's different. So you don't have a dog in the hunt anymore. So what's true can be noticed and revealed. There's not a huge bias to protect the little system because you've seen it's failed. Yeah? Nothing right or wrong with it. It's failed. It's got a myopic view. Yeah? As Jesus says, you know, in a way, he says, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. So he basically was saying many of us don't have eyes to see and don't have ears to hear. So for those who do, things will look clearer. Yeah? Now, we all have it, but in the actualization or the acting out here, we can act as if we don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. Then you receive a correction. The correction tells you always had eyes to see and ears to hear, and then you're not trying to have eyes to see and ears to hear anymore. You're just seeing and hearing. The best way to be something is lose interest in knowing it and experiencing it and understanding it. That's the best way to be it. You lose interest in it completely. Why would he need interest in it? You're being it. The interest. Be interested in what you're not so you can see you're not that, basically. Instead of trying to know what you are from what you're not, just know what you're not from what you are. How difficult is that? They're happening at the same time. One is timeless. Yeah? One is of time. Yeah? All right. I can see the time from the timeless. I can't see the timeless from the time. Simple as that. The time obscures, timelessness clear. Yeah? Once you have really just a couple of times where you're in the, yeah, all right, here you are waiting for a shock, and then you're in a seat that gives you a shock. A few times you realize, hey, yeah, this seat is now emphasized. I get the shock here. Yeah, yeah. There I'm always hoping to get the shock. Here I'm in the shock. There's a more of me in the story of hoping to get the shock than I'd rather just have the shock, you know, not have the shock, but be in the shock. Yeah? It's, you know, knowing serenity and understanding peace and all like that. It's quite good. Quite nice, stable condition to be in with all the volatility and all the other shit going on. Yeah? Yeah. So, If you're interested in this message, I recommend look at some of the YouTubes. They're helpful over 2 years. Maybe add 3 YouTubes in 2 years. So the next time you come back, you'll have 3 you've watched 3 videos in every 2 years, and then maybe every 5 years. Then you just put it on. I know I own it. Yeah. But at least put a like up there. Yeah. And if there's so much stuff there that every video is the same, pretty much. It says in different ways. We're attempting to present. It's like dancing tango, and there's the dancing the tango in time and the dancing of tango in no time. You're trying to just present the possibility of the tango in no time. So it disrupts the story of you tangoing in time, yeah? Just instead of trying to tango yourself into timelessness through time, you see the time behavior from timelessness. They're available. Why not why not open up to the option? You're built it as yes and no, close and far, this or that. Why are you so stubbornly holding one position when 2 are available? You can see what you're not from what you are. Timelessness and time. You can see the perceived being produced by the mental state from the perceiving. You can see it. Yeah. It's available. So, any questions? No? All right. That's that. Yeah. It may not be, but go ahead. Yeah.